Hi there, I'm James Osborne, the co-founder of the Recruitment Network, and this is the TRN Podcast. Every week, we unpack the strategies, the technologies, the processes and mindsets fueling today's top-performing recruitment agencies. We take a look behind the scenes of some great recruitment businesses. We listen to the real-life stories of those who have built those businesses, and we learn from some of the industry's greatest thought leaders to help you become both future fit and future relevant. So let's begin with this next episode of the TRM podcast.
Right, good stuff. So firstly, lovely to see you, as I said. My name's James Osborne. I'm a non-exec director and advisor to the recruitment sector and co-founder of the Recruitment Network. We run these sessions all the time as an opportunity to share some ideas and best practice with members of TRM, but also non-members. So many of you are guests today, so lovely to see you here, and thanks for joining us. I'm going to run you through a sort of a presentation I put together. I'm going to go a little bit left field from some of it. We'll walk around it a little bit, so don't get hung up on the detail. We will share a copy of the slides with you afterwards, so you'll have a copy of all this plus the recording as well. But I just want to get you thinking about some different things, share some ideas. It won't all be applicable for all of you, etc., but most of it in there will be. So hopefully you'll find some stuff that you'll find really, really useful. And then we'll go from there. So let me share my screen with you. And we'll bring this up and make sure you can see it. One of the things that we're talking a lot about at the moment is the rise of the super agency. So in the recruitment sector at the moment, we're seeing a very different marketplace pan out. We're seeing some recruitment organizations still finding it quite tough. Some people not quite figuring out how to get traction yet. But we're also seeing a big group of people now, recruiters and recruitment companies, who are really starting to figure out how to grow aggressively, how to win in this type of marketplace. So we call them the super agencies. We've got loads of examples across the TRN community of those super agencies and those super recruiters, let's call them. And I'm going to try and share with you some of the ideas and thoughts and thinking that come from how they're working and how they're behaving and what maybe they're doing differently to everybody else, which seems to be working as much as anything. So hopefully that you'll find that quite useful. So let me just get straight into here. Okay, fantastic. Okay, cool. So the whole BD thing and what super agencies are doing at the moment, it's not about working harder. I think we've all learned how to work hard and hustle as we do in recruitment, and we've done a lot of that over the last couple of years. This is not about necessarily building massive teams, working hard, all that type of stuff. It's about thinking about building an always-on engine, and that's how I describe business development and sales. It's an engine that hums and purrs in the background. You don't turn it on and turn it off. It's continuously running in the background for you, and it's built out of a blend of, in today's market, using data, using intelligence, being really visible, using tech and AI, and then bringing together proper consultative selling, all into one place on repeat, so it never stops. And I think at the moment, a lot of recruitment companies that approach me and say, look, we want to come and join TRN because we've got some real problems with our BD at the moment. That's the thing that's really holding us back. And generally, it's because they haven't built out an engine. So they're doing BD as a stop, start. And when they get busy filling jobs, then BD goes off. When they get not busy again, they haven't got any BD to backfill what they've just closed. So this is about building this engine. I want you to see that in your business. We touched on this at the retreat a couple of weeks ago. We had about 250 of the recruitment members together, or leaders together, part of TRN, for one of our retreats, one of our events. And we got into some of the real meat behind what's holding people back, and at the same time, what's really accelerating performance right now, as much as anything else. And one of the golden threads that came out of the TRN retreat is that we need to design the future, not just defend our future. This is about, at the moment, a lot of recruitment companies and recruiters have been protecting things that they've always done, that have always worked, but don't necessarily work anymore. And now you need to start building a new way of working, a new style of approach, a new way of doing BD, based on where the market is going, based on what your customers are asking for. You can't just keep doing the same old thing and hoping it's going to work, because it's not working as well as it used to. That's just a reality. So this is about building and designing a BD strategy, not just defending what we've always done from a BD point of view. So we're talking about these super agencies, loads of examples, and I won't go through all of these in detail, but these are examples of recruitment companies that I work with. We work with across TRN, who are flying at the moment. They're doing really well. This particular business here, had 67 consultants a couple of years ago, now down to 15. But they're doing about 1.4 million pound profit run rate. And that's really impressive, considering it's a business that's downsized in headcount. But they downsize for the right reason. They downsize to become slicker and leaner and more effective, more efficient and more profitable. Another business increased headcount from 18 to 29 in the last 12 months. Average GP per recruiter now sitting at around 460 grand per annum. That's pretty impressive when you think about it. So that's average across everyone in their business is about 460 grand. And that's still growing as well. Interesting enough, a lot of their business, or a chunk of their business, comes from doing consultancy work, not just pure recruitment work as well. So again, an evolving agency, a different agency from maybe what we're used to, but we call these the super agencies. This is a solo recruiter, now does over £400,000 worth of recurring revenue. Revenue, I should say. A big chunk of it comes from running a community in the marketplace that they were recruiting for in that niche. And then the rest of it comes through perm fees. But they outsource two of the roles of the two people working for them. One's a community manager running their community platform, and one's a resourcer, both based out in South Africa. So you've got a solo recruiter doing over 400K now with two staff, all offshore, outsourced into South Africa. It's a nice business model. It's a really good, solid business model. So again, another example of a super agency, a business that's doing really well. You would have heard of Metric that was sold by BGF at a valuation of £100 million a couple of months ago, or a month or so ago now. This is a perm-only business, 130 consultants, been going for about 7 years, etc. It just shows you that there are businesses out there in the recruitment sector that are doing incredibly well right now. We call them the super agencies. And I think the reason is they're doing well is because they're starting to think and do things differently, maybe to the rest of the market. What does that look like? There's loads of things. They're massively productive. They're obsessed about productivity and profitability. They're commercially consultative, so they position themselves as recruitment consultants and actually act as consultants. They're deeply insightful, so they're using data and insights to help them drive their strategy. They have a multi-directional AI, a BD approach, I should say. So they do BD in multiple ways, not just rely on one way, and they're AI augmented. So they use AI to really drive their BD strategy, their business strategy, their performance, their productivity. So there's loads of things that you can delve into. We've got a whole series of content now which explains all of these things in more detail to you so you can understand that. But the thing we're going to talk about today is obviously the BD approach in particular, and what is a super agency doing, not necessarily different, but certainly better than everybody else in order to get better traction when it comes to business development, in order to build that BD engine. In the same way, what are their recruiters doing? What's a super recruiter doing right now from a BD point of view as well? And let's look at the market. What's been happening? I think the reality is the market is very different now from what it has been for many people over the last sort of 6, 12, 18 months or so. This is one of the members I was just chatting with last week. So they closed out H2. They've done more in the first half of this year than the whole of last year. But don't get me wrong, last year was actually a good year. It wasn't a bad year. June was their biggest month since they set up their business. Their current average GP run rate is now sitting at over 360K. So again, we're hearing more and more of this happening across the TRN community of recruitment businesses, small, big, medium, large, whatever size, who seem to be really figuring out how to transact in this type of market and do well in this type of market. And I get messages all the time from members on WhatsApp, etc., talking about the stuff that's really working, talking about how well they're doing, sharing ideas, sharing best practice. And again, we're seeing this more and more happening at the moment, that recruitment businesses are doing better. They're winning better business as well. Their BD strategy is working to the point where they're not just winning lots of spot business, spot contingent business. They're winning consecutive deals. They're winning multi-hire deals, retained deals, the embedded stuff, the stuff that really, really makes a difference. And that's what we're going to focus on today a little bit, is about how do you win higher value business as much as just winning any type of business right now. And we're definitely seeing a decline of the old model. This is a classic example of a WhatsApp message I get from people as well. People who are saying, I'm just knackered at the moment. I'm doing all this BD stuff and it's hard work. And I'm just trudging away. I'm just not getting the same results as I used to get before. We've got to change the model. And that was my reply to them. And that's what we're now building out as well. So just so I know you're all here and alive and with me, just give me a thumbs up if that makes sense so far, that maybe the old business development model maybe is in a little bit of a decline. And maybe this is an opportunity now to rethink, redesign, reorganize how we're doing BD, not to change the rule book completely, but if we want to build a proper always-on engine that AI can superpower, we might want to adapt a little bit to the market and what the market is asking us as much as anything else. Okay, cool. So there's a few of you giving me the thumbs up, so I think you're in agreement with me, which is great. So we're going to talk today about doing BD like a super agency, doing BD like a super recruiter, and just getting this piece right. I'm a BD person. I'm a salesperson. Recruitment is a sales industry, always has been, always will be. We mustn't forget about that. The reason why many recruiters don't enjoy sales and don't sometimes even admit they do sales in the recruitment sector is because the way we do it doesn't necessarily work. It's a little bit crass now. It's a little bit dirty, and actually it just doesn't have the same effect. This is not about don't pick up the phone. This is not about don't do meetings, don't do cold calling, all that sort of stuff. That stuff is still super important, but how you do it makes the difference. And that's what the smart recruiters are getting right in this type of market. Okay, just while I've got you on the call, just before we go into the detail of this, I just want to share with you a couple of quick updates from TRN, just so you know some of the things that are available to you as well. These are some of the playbooks that we've got running at the moment. So we've launched the Velocity Playbook, which is our BD playbook about how to use AI and BD together. If any of you want a copy of this, a free copy of it, just give me a thumbs up or a yes in the chat. And my team are on the call today. They'll send it across to you. So you'll have a copy of that. We'll just write Velocity so we know that you want it. And we'll share that with you. It's a complete end-to-end playbook on how to do BD in this type of market. And we've got some great results off the back of that already. We've even got a training program for you as well, a sort of a whole slide deck. So if you want to take the training program and deliver it internally into your business, you're more than welcome to have that as well. The second course that we're running at the moment is the Pinnacle program, probably the thing I'm most excited about at the moment across the sector. The Pinnacle program is basically how to sell higher value, more consultancy-led type services and products, and not just spot deals and recruitment, but how do you sell embedded solutions and consultancy service, and how do you convert your average margins well above what they are on average across the industry, 18, 20, 22%, to more like 35, 40% as well. If any of you want copies of that, I'll share with you the full Pinnacle program. Obviously, we run a whole program and training course on that, but if you want just a document to see how to do it, I'll share that with you. To remind you all, we've got some really interesting stuff happening at the moment around social scaling, which is the personal branding stuff that we do. This is a completely free course to attend. It's how to build your personal brand on LinkedIn, how to beat the LinkedIn algorithms, how to get proper traction and results. That's the top of the sales funnel, remember. So this stuff is really important to get your head around and make sure you're doing it properly. There's still a lot of people dabbling at social media and not being able to figure it out, wondering why they're seeing posts from 3 weeks ago and wondering why their posts aren't landing, etc. So that's social scaling. Make sure you're booking onto the next course for that. And if you're really into the AI side of things and you want to start building agents and AI agents, etc., get yourself booked onto the next traction course. We're finishing this one on Friday, the current one, getting some great results off the back of it. And a big part of that is how do you build AI agents that are doing a big chunk of the BD strategy and the BD stuff for you, the BD activity for you as well, lead gen and so on and so forth. Again, if you want to make sure you want to get involved in that, make sure you're booking onto the next traction course, again, completely free to access and utilize. Make sure you're booking onto all the stuff, in fact, for that we're running across TRN at the moment. We're really here to help drive the industry forward. We have all of our regional meetups all over the UK. All of our Rumbles and Trailblazers, which are the training programs for your consultants and for your team leaders, again, all completely free to access and utilize. And if you think you are pushing the bar a little bit and you are really figuring this out, then make sure you get involved in the Global Recruiter Awards that we've got coming up as well quite soon. You'll find all this stuff on the TRN World platform, so make sure you're logging into the platform and utilizing everything that's on there for you, all the free training courses, tools, guides, AI agents, and everything else that's on there. You can access it via the app as well. We'll see. And just to let you know, we've got 4 massive game changers coming live over the course of the next few weeks or so to share with all the members, which I think you're going to find really, really quite wonderful, actually, which we're very shared about. So keep your eyes peeled for that. If you're not a member of TRM, we'd love to welcome you, obviously. Come and get involved. Come and join us, whether you're a solo member, plus, club, or enterprise member. Come and get involved. See what we're doing. Come and access all this stuff. Come and really change your business model and move forward as much as you can. And just to remind you off the back of today, if you are a member and you want to jump on a call with me to do an analysis of your sales process and start to help build out your sales strategy session around the Superagency stuff, just drop a line to member support and we'll get that booked in. I've got a session straight after this with one of the members and we're going to completely reorganize their whole sales strategy, and you watch the impact it's going to make this side of the summer. I can promise you that. Okay, cool. So that's a bit of an update from TRN. Let's get into what we're going to talk about today, this sales thing. I'm just going to talk everything about sales and just get you thinking about some different things. Just to remind everybody, sales is an art and it's a science. You need to be really bloody good at both and you need to understand both. That's just a sort of reality. The core principles of sales haven't changed, I don't think. I think the way that we've always done sales over the years hasn't really changed. So I don't think this is about ripping up the rule book. It is a numbers game. People have got to trust you. You've got to pick up the phone. You've got to do activity, etc., etc. We know all that type of stuff. But one thing I think is very true is I think that the wrapping of sales has definitely changed. So how we do sales is definitely different now, because our customers are far more informed than they've ever been before. They're using content, they're using social media, all this type of stuff to help them make decisions. Their value proposition is different. What they see about price is different. What they believe is perceived value is different. Buying cycles have changed, and so on and so forth. So this is not about saying all the stuff we used to do doesn't work anymore. Not about that at all. But a lot of it doesn't work as effective as it could do, and therefore we need to adapt how we're doing it. And if you notice that a lot of the things, some of the things that you used to do from a BD perspective, just don't seem to be getting that traction that they used to. And I think that's something that's really, really important. I think the buying processes have changed. I think they had to, but I'm not convinced our sales process has necessarily kept up with that change as well. So now's a really good time to rethink your sales strategy and rethink what your activity is before you go and do it. And think about the same thing. Think about when you buy a house, when you book a holiday, when you buy a car. The process that you go through now as a consumer, as a customer, to buy something has changed. Therefore, your sales process has to adapt and change accordingly. I think it's exactly the same in recruitment. I think that, and just let's look at it. So what's going on exactly? Well, let's have a think. Your customers, the people that you're selling to, and your candidates, that matter as well. But the people you're selling to generally are just really, really bloody busy at the moment. Everyone is really busy. Loads and loads of things going on. The reality also is most of your customers are doom scrolling through emails and social media posts, etc. So your ability to land a post, a bit of content is much, much harder. Your ability to get your email seen by your customers is much, much harder because they are on their phones doom scrolling through thousands and thousands of other platforms all at the same time. So it's harder to cut through that noise as much as anything else. And then obviously with technology and AI now, if you're doing cold calling, you've got the challenges of if your phone number's not in their phone book, you come up as suspected spam, or even more importantly, now you've actually got to write what the call or what the reason for the call is actually about. So again, it's not saying cold calling doesn't work, not saying emailing doesn't work, etc. But the reality is it's getting harder and it's getting different, and we need to think of it therefore about how we adapt our ways to working towards that. So that makes sense. Very obvious, I think. I think you'd all probably agree. Now it's a case of therefore, what are we going to do about it? You've also got to remember there are different demographics that we're selling to now. So how and why a baby boomer would have bought something from you, from a recruitment company 20 years ago, 10 years ago, even today, is different from how maybe a Gen Y or a Gen Z are buying from you as well. So we need to understand the demographics of who we're selling to and adapt accordingly. Otherwise, it just won't land. Think about it. Think about the channels that you're using currently as part of your outreach process. I don't know what you use, whether you're using Instagram or Snapchat or Facebook or LinkedIn or WhatsApp or whatever it is that you're using, different channels. Those channels at the end of the day will only really work, A, if you're doing it properly, but B, if the people you're trying to sell to are actually in those channels. So there's no point doing it if they're not there. So think about your ideal customers, think about the people that you're selling to, and work out where they're hanging out. What channels are they actually using? And I can't help thinking that's probably where you should be spending your time as well. So look at this, 16 to 24-year-olds spending more time on Insta and TikTok and Snapchat. What are you doing? If you're targeting 16 to 24-year-olds, if that's your demographic, then what are you doing in those areas? If you're targeting 25 to 45-year-olds, probably a little bit more time on email, a little bit more time on Facebook, so therefore you adapt accordingly. If you're dealing with 46-year-olds plus, again, they're hanging out in different places. And you get the point. What we're just trying to suggest here, if you're building out a channel strategy, an outreach, an outbound sales strategy, there's no point doing it if the people that you're doing it to aren't in that channel in the first place. Otherwise, they ain't going to see it. Simple as that, really. So think a little bit about where you're doing it, because ultimately what we're trying to be here is what we refer to as the purple cow. How do you stand out in a marketplace that it looks like a big field of black and white or dirty brown smelly cows, and you need to be the purple cow? There's a fantastic book by a guy called Seth Godin, who wrote all about the purple cow effect. I'd highly recommend you all read it if you want to understand how do you stand out and be different for the right reasons. Because in this market, in a very crowded market as the recruitment sector is, in a very noisy market because of all the stuff we've got with social media, automations, AI, it's really hard to be that purple cow. And unless you are that purple cow, you're always going to be fighting for business. You need to flip that around pretty quickly. So think about being famous for something. Your brand proposition, your top of the funnel proposition is how do you be famous for something? Because if you're not famous, you're invisible. And if you're invisible, you're fighting for business and you're fighting for scrappy business as well. If you're famous in your market, famous in your niche, famous as a recruiter for what you do, if you're differentiating yourself as much as being better than everybody else, then people will start talking about you. You can start driving referrals, repeat business, recommendations, the stuff that really, really makes a difference in sales, account penetration, squeezing more out of your customers, and so on and so forth. Does that make sense? So it's a really good question to ask yourself, what do you want to be famous for? And then test it against some of your clients and see what they're actually saying about you. Think about everything that you do within your business. How similar is it to everybody else within your market? And how are you standing out as that purple cow? And think about how you're going to remove things from your day-to-day processes and improve the client journey so people actually talk about you for the right reasons. But I do want you to think about that question, what do you want to be famous for? It's such an important part of the sales process that people neglect to talk about or think about. Get that piece right, it drives everything that you do in your sales strategy, your brand, your proposition, your content, and everything else that goes with that. Now, I was with a recruitment leader yesterday who was a little bit down. I'll be honest with you. They approached me and said, look, we haven't met before, but I'm a little bit down because my BD strategies, my business is just not flying. I've got about half a dozen people and my BD is just not really working for me. So I asked her what she was doing around BD and what the team were doing. The team weren't really doing very much. They were spending most of the time with their existing customers, their existing network, which was drying up. And they were just doing sales stuff, but nothing really in particular in there. And fundamentally, what the biggest issue was, they had no strategy. They weren't building a sales strategy. They weren't running to a sales strategy. They weren't reporting on a sales strategy. And therefore, BD became a second thought that nobody really wanted to do, as opposed to this engine, this machine that sat in the background. So we're going to think a little bit about the BD strategy as much as the BD processes that you're following. Without a proper strategy, which is why we built Velocity Playbook, etc., is to give you that strategy that you can sort of roll out. The market we're in is right for this now, by the way. I want to make this really, really clear. A lot of people saying, oh, recruitment market's tough and it's difficult. The recruitment market is absolutely not difficult. It's just different. And you really, really need to understand that. And there's a whole bunch of things around this talent reset that we're seeing at the moment. But one thing in particular, and I'm going to highlight this as much as anything else, that for businesses right now, the labor market is absolutely fine. There is plenty of business out there to go after, and that's why we're seeing super agencies do incredibly well. The problem that you've got is some of you on this call, some recruiters, some recruitment organizations just aren't relevant anymore. You're not relevant to your customer base anymore. They want to spend money, but they just don't want to spend it with you anymore because what you're offering, the way you're offering it, isn't just landing with them anymore. Does that make sense? That relevancy is massive. And we talk a lot about how does a recruiter become future fit and future relevant? And it's a really, really important question to answer. Okay, so let's think about how do you become relevant? Well, there's some simple ways of doing this. I'll show you a quick example of that. And this is built around visibility. How do you get in front of your prospect customers and how many are you getting in front of? Those of you who know me, I come from a background where we were tasked as a recruiter to do 20 client meetings every single week. So every single week I had to get in front of face-to-face 20 customers. We didn't have Team and Zoom and all that sort of stuff then. We had to just get out off our backsides and go and see people. That was a real slog, but it really taught me about the importance of visibility, the importance of being in front of customers. Can I ask all of you now, just in the chat, just to write down for me, how many client meetings are you or your recruiters on average doing per week, per person? Just give me a quick sense of the level of meetings that's happening across this chat at the moment. 3 to 4, 5. Okay, so quite low numbers, 4, 3, 3. Let's be honest about it. Doing a couple of meetings a week means you're fairly invisible. I'm not being rude when I say that, but it's a bit of a reality check when you think about it. You've got to be truly, truly visible. You've got to get out in front of your customer base. They need to know about you. They need to know that you're open for business, and you need to have reasons to be engaging with them even when they haven't got jobs to be working on. Okay, so think of it from that point of view. I come from this background, 15 a week, 20 a week is the sort of way you need to get to. And that's where we're pushing the recruitment sector at the moment. Now, don't be scared by that. Just understand how you can do it. I'll show you a quick example and a different way of looking at it. This is a recruitment business in London. They had 14 recruiters who were out there. They wanted to go and get in front of their client base, but they had no real strategy to do so. So we helped them build this top of the funnel strategy about getting in front of their customers. One of the ways that we did that, we said, okay, let's run a roundtable event. Why a roundtable event? Because we want to get a whole bunch of their target customers onto a call at exactly the same time. So we ran a roundtable event around changes in legislation that were coming up. We invited people to a roundtable rather than cold call them to do business with us or them. They had 132 people signed up for that roundtable. We looked at the list of 132. Over 100 of the people they've been cold calling for God knows how long and got nowhere whatsoever. Suddenly they invite them onto a roundtable that they're interested in, and 132 sign up. Go figure. Now that's not a face-to-face meeting, one-to-one talking about recruitment, but it is bringing 132 people down through the sales funnel process and getting visible and getting in front of them. Then what we made sure we did on that call, on that round table, was run a very clear call to action. So what is the next step? What's going to happen next? In this case, was a one-to-one meeting to complete a legislation audit. And on the back of that, they had 41 meetings booked in. I think about 35 actually transpired. So off the back of one single process, they brought in 35 face-to-face meetings. So you can't tell me that your customers don't want to see you anymore, or we can't get in front of our customers. We absolutely can. It's basically, how do you get to that point and how do you do it? Now, to Greg's question on the chat, and a good question, how do you constitute a meeting? If you look at the sales funnel process, you have different stages. This, to me, is a light touch meeting. Getting people on a round table is a light touch meeting. That will be one stage of the funnel. To get to the next stage of the funnel, but I then have to have a one-to-one meeting with them. Okay, you get the idea. So however you define the different categories in your sales funnel process will be then defining what each of these different layers are going to be, sort of stuff. And to me, a meeting these days is just getting visible eyeball to eyeball. Those of you who do international recruitment, don't necessarily want to travel everywhere, getting on a Teams call or a Zoom call is absolutely fine as well, if that's what you have to do, as long as it's a proper meeting, it's booked in, it's locked in, and you're having a proper conversation with them. That's still part of the process, okay? So figure out your own version of this. It doesn't really matter, but the principle is the same. How do I get in front of shed loads of people all the time on a regular basis? Think about this today. There's 130 people on this call today. Why are you here today? Because you may have been told to come, or actually because you're interested in what we're talking about. That's 132 people who are now moving down through the sales funnel process. You get the idea? Simple process, but it's a way of thinking about it, and it bloody well works. It's one principle, this, okay? This is not what I'm saying you should all run round tables around legislation changes, but it's a principle that sits behind the sales funnel strategy. It's about getting in front of your customers, getting into their boardrooms, so you can actually have meaningful conversations about retained, embedded, multi-hire opportunities, not just picking up jobs off the back of an email that they might flick out to you on a contingent basis. So we talk a lot about value, visibility, and velocity. This is what BD is all about. Adding value to your customers so they move down through the funnel, they want to hang out with you, being really visible on scale, and doing this at velocity, using AI if you have to help you do this stuff, and with a massive amount of velocity. And we call it omni-channel or multi-channel because the smartest recruiters I know, bar none, the super agencies and the super recruiters today have 3 or 4 channels running concurrently at any one time, and they're just pushing the needle. They're working really, really well, and they're driving that visibility and value all the time. So we need to flip the narrative in our sales process. The concept is the same as it always has been. The process of building a sales funnel and moving people down through the funnel has never changed, but the narrative has definitely changed. And the question we should be asking is not how can I sell to my ideal customer profile, but how can I get my ideal profile to want to buy from me? Very different conversation, very different question, and a very different reason for someone to move down through your sales funnel. In the same way, how can I get one of my ideal target customers to want to have a meeting with me? Simple question. Not about selling, it's about moving them down through the sales funnel. Does that make sense? So the process hasn't changed. The principles on the wrapping has definitely changed. And then the smart recruitment companies are building out their channel strategy. They go, right, I'm going to have an outbound, I'm going to have an inbound strategy. Outbound being all the classic stuff we do to go out to market to try and win business, whether it be the cold calling, LinkedIn, your partners, LinkedIn advertising, SEO, whatever it is, doesn't really matter. Specking out candidates, all this type of stuff is outbound. You going out to your market saying, hey, do you want to come and buy from me? It's a hard slog. It's a volume play. You've got to do lots of it. But then you have the inbound strategy as well, where you've got customers who are saying, I've heard about you, I've read about you, I'm engaging with you now. I want to spend more time with you. I want to engage with you more. So 2 different sides of the sales funnel. If you're building out a proper strategy with your sales strategy, you have both sides covered. So you pick 3 from the left and 3 from the right, and you become really bloody brilliant at all 6 of those. It's as simple as that. So identify your ideal customer profile, work out what channels they're on, where they're going to get the most traction, pick 3 channel strategies, inbound and outbound, and figure out how you're going to use those strategies that's best in class to create more value, create more visibility, and do that at velocity. And that's the principle behind any good sales strategy. Hasn't changed in decades, and it won't change in decades, but the wrapping has changed. Does that all make sense, guys? And you'll see a lot of this in the playbooks we're going to send to you afterwards about how do you do all of these things that you're seeing on the screen brilliantly well, better than anybody else in the marketplace. But that's really, really key to think about. Once you've built the strategy, you can then drive all sorts of stuff around it and do lots more of it as well. Let's look at some research from the customers then. So the customers, the people we're trying to sell to, what are they saying about us? Do they want to be bought? Do they want to buy from us at the moment? Do our end user customers want to be buying from us, engaging with us or not? Let's have a look at some of the insights from the TA world. This is for some insights from 137 TA leaders. They're people who are your target customers, running businesses from a recruitment perspective. And this is what they're saying about the recruitment sector. I won't go through this in detail. We'll share this with you all afterwards. But what they are saying is we want to work with recruitment companies, but we don't want to work with lots of recruitment companies anymore. We want to work with a fewer number of recruitment companies. We want to work with ones who can really make a difference. Not so, actually, they're moving away from this contingent multi-agency sort of relationship. And they're getting closer and closer to finding agencies they can build a proper partnership with. They're saying we're not the enemy here. We're the buyers. We're your future partners. So treat us accordingly. And they're asking you for more value. They're saying, listen, the value is not just about getting CVs from you now. The value is about giving us insights and access to specialist talent that we don't have before. So this is different relationship they're asking for. These are your customers saying to you, we want to work with you, but we want to have a different relationship with you moving forward. Treat us like a partner, give us insights, give us access to talent we can't find anywhere else, and we will work with you on an exclusive retained basis. We won't work with you on a contingent basis. This is brilliant news. This is what your customers are saying. But if you're not selling that, then you won't get it. It's as simple as that. So then you go, right, well, what are their priorities? If you were an HR professional, let's say, so let's say we're targeting HR professionals, what are the things that they're thinking about, they're worried about, they're concerned? And what are you doing as a recruiter? What's your recruitment company doing to help them navigate this list? And this list here are all the priorities of HR people at the moment in order. So these are the things that they are thinking about, concerned about, worried about, need help with. Just specking out a CV to them, if that's your only strategy, is not going to help them with half of this stuff. Okay, engaging with them, talking to them, sharing insights, data, and so on and so forth will help them with this, will buy them trust and rapport with you. So ask yourself the question, is your sales process just to flog CVs, or is your sales process to become useful, to become relevant, and to support your customers, your end user customers, on some of these things that you're seeing on the screen here? If it is, you're going to naturally move people down in volume down through that sales funnel process. They're going to want to hang out with you. They're going to want to have a relationship with you. Does that make sense? Not complicated, but I need you to think differently about the sales process. It's not just about flogging CVs anymore, which is what our industry has really been brought up on for many, many years. We've got quite comfortable in being very transactional in that process. Are you relevant, guys? If you're not relevant, the people won't buy from you. They won't want to engage with you in the first place. And that's the key. And what they're asking us to do, what our customers, your customers are asking you to do, is move from being a supplier into more of a partner. They're saying this to us. This is coming from the data from them. This is not us making this up. This is the opportunity like none other. And every super agency that I know, every super recruiter that I know is flying at the moment, doing 3, 4, 500K quite comfortably, has repositioned themselves as a partner, a specialist provider of a service. We're going to work with you. We're going to give you insights and advice. We're going to help you evolve a relationship rather than just sell you CVs. And again, I won't go through. There's a couple of exercises for you to do here where you can actually scorecard yourself about what your relationships look like currently with some of your customers. And you'll be pretty amazed actually about where you're currently situated. In essence, a lot of you are still like a black and white cow in a field, being irrelevant and so on and so forth. So what did that look like? Well, it looks like all sorts of things, right? And what we say to a lot of people, even before the role exists, even before the customer's talking to you about a job, think about how you're being useful to them, how you're adding value to them. Are you helping them with market mapping, giving them salary intelligence, helping them with their hiring strategy, and so on and so forth? Really important part of the process. And with AI and some of the stuff we're doing in Pinnacle, you can do this now really, really easily, which is great. But then suddenly you become really quite useful and really quite relevant as well. Okay, again, I'm not going to go through this in detail, but I'll share this with you afterwards. But think about your positioning and how you're coming to market with them. This is, to me, was the sort of the summary from the all the TAs that we spoke to about what they're looking for. They want 3 things from you. They want hard to reach talent. So they can find candidates themselves. It's not difficult, right? So we've got access to LinkedIn, like you've got access to LinkedIn and job boards and so on and so forth. But what they want access to is hard to reach specialist talent. So the recruiters and recruitment companies that are selling their ability to tap into unearthed talent, hidden niche talent, are the ones that are winning at the moment. They want intelligence and advisory from you. They want to know what's going on in the market so they can make better decisions because they're trying to figure out their market strategies at the moment. And they want to work with you as an embedded partner. That's what they're asking for as much as anything else. So this is good news for us. It's really, really good news for us, but only if you play the game accordingly. Does that make sense? Nothing complicated about that, nothing difficult. But then just think about how you are positioning yourself. What are you famous for? And are you actually famous for any of this stuff that you're seeing on the screen here? Because if you're not, you're probably not famous to the right people or in the right way that your customers want. It may look good on a brochure, but it's not necessarily going to get bought by the customers. And intelligence and advisory is a big part of this. I'm going to touch on this now because actually, to me, the skills of a recruiter in BD have changed and evolved. The skills of a recruitment company have changed. And this is very much about the best way to get in front of customers right now is to play the intelligence and advisory card. So basically help get in front of them by helping them understand what's happening in their markets, understanding their value proposition, understanding what candidates are saying and thinking right now, telling them insights about what their competitors are up to. That will get you into their boardrooms right now. It's the easiest way to do business development as much as anything else, because with that data, you can help them create strategy. And actually, the really smart super agencies are saying to their customers, let's sit down together, let's go through the data. What is this telling us? And let's build a talent strategy that is that is future relevant and future fit moving forward. And we'll do it together, hand in hand. That's why they're winning embedded partnership, retained type relationships with their customers. And they're using the data to help them get there. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about RevOps now. And RevOps is, I suppose, a way of doing sales in this type of market. We created a RevOps playbook last year. I'll send a copy of it across to you, so you've all got a copy of that, so you can have a look at it. But RevOps is basically looking at your business, going, everything you do drives sales in some format. Every relationship, every conversation, every interaction you have with a customer in some way is sales focused. So everything you do, you should be thinking about how does it drive sales. A really important, simple message to think about. And I'll show you a quick example or a quick analogy of this. We talked a lot recently about, I've been analyzing a lot of recruiters and recruitment companies' sales strategies. What are they doing? And there's still a lot of people doing ambulance chasing, which I'm sure you're familiar with that concept, where you're running around looking at job boards, going, oh, they're recruiting at the moment. And then you jump on the phone and go, hey, I hear you're recruiting at the moment. How are you getting on? It's a little bit like chasing ambulances, like insurance companies do. And the trouble with ambulance chasing is you're well behind the eight ball already. They've already started hiring as well. So think differently about it. Think differently about how you can use data and insights to help you with this and come up with a better way of finding opportunities. I'll show you a classic example. And I've been using this a lot recently because we've been talking about it in the traction program. But think about the hiring triggers that your recruiters should be monitoring. So these are the triggers that will identify when your customers might be hiring in a month's time, 2 months' time, or 3 months' time, not when they're already hiring and they've already got an activity plan in play. So this gives you the heads up in front of the rest of the market. So it might be that one of your customers has got some investment in, or they just want a funding series, or they're expanding and opening up a new office, or there's been some regulatory change that's going to require them to do things differently within their business, etc. I don't know what it is. All of your customers are different. But if you can identify what the hiring triggers are, these are the things that will mean they will be probably hiring in 30, 60, 90 days time. And then you can then use that data to help you build a sales strategy and win business ahead of the rest of the marketplace. So I think that's a classic example. And again, this is where AI starts coming into play. Let's pick 4 of these. Let's pick the first one, office lease. And let's imagine now when a new office lease is being signed by one of your customers. They're moving into a new office that's currently bigger than their office that they're currently in at the moment. That will probably mean that they're scaling up. Okay, great. Now, the office lease is just one trigger. And if we can identify when that trigger happens, then we know they're scaling up. We're ahead of the market. We can then pick up the phone and talk to them before any other recruitment company does, before they even start talking about their hiring plans. That's a really interesting, what we call hiring trigger or hiring signal. You can then build AI, and a reason why I use this one because we've been doing this in the traction program. You can then build an AI agent really easily. This is one called Charlie who does exactly that. So this AI agent sits in the background for you and identifies when one of your target customers has just signed into a new office lease. You'll then look at LinkedIn to identify how many staff they currently got based on where they are on LinkedIn. What's the difference between the two? If they're signing an 130 headcount office lease and they've got 45 people on LinkedIn, it probably means they're going to be scaling up fairly soon. Now you know that before anyone else knows about it. Brilliant. Now you're well ahead of the marketplace. So that's an example of a good recruiter being ahead of the market, being future relevant, using data, using insights, being useful to your customers. And then you can be properly consultative as well about how, okay, let's talk about some of the data, what it's going to be like to find people in that location. And this agent here was just built in ChatGPT, nothing complex about it. It's a classic GPT agent. I'm sure many of you are building now. And then you can literally launch it, type it in, look at the different leases, and it'll pull for you a list of all the different leases, either from your geographical location or from your typical ICPs. It doesn't really matter. Here's one from London. Here's another one from Manchester, and so on and so forth. So simple example of where we're taking something like AI and saying, how do we drop AI into more of a consultative strategic sales process? And now suddenly my recruiters are spending more time chasing up leads that are well ahead of the rest of the market rather than scrabbling around for bits of business or doing ambulance chasing manually sort of stuff. So you can see the difference between them. Faye, to your question, can you get access to a link to Charlie? Absolutely. I'll get Felix and one of my teams. So in fact, if any of you want a copy of Charlie, just let me know. Just give me a thumbs up in the chat and we'll get it sent out to you afterwards so you can all access and use it. If you come on the Traction program, which is our free training course on how to build these agents, I'll show you how to build it yourself because it's really, really easy. And that's the whole point of this. And that's where sales has changed. It's evolved. It's different now. There's a bit of strategy, a bit of thinking, a bit of AI sitting behind it as well. You can see where we're sort of coming from for this. Okay. Also remember, when we're talking about BD, it's as much about increasing the value of your existing customer base as it is about building out new pipeline and new opportunities as well. Just important to remind you of that, because actually I think we're really good in recruitment forgetting about our existing customers. Remember, your existing customers are there to help you win more business from them, to introduce you to other people, recommend you to other people, and so on and so forth. Use that as much as you possibly can. If you want help for that, I'll do a whole program on this called Operation Goldmine. This is really effective, works really, really well, where we can go and tap into that low-hanging fruit. This is one of the members, OA, who we took them through Operation Goldmine. And Laura wrote about this on LinkedIn. They found over £7 million worth of business, existing business they already had sitting within their client base using this process, very simple process in Operation Goldmine. So think about your penetration of your existing customers. Have I reached out to them? Am I getting referrals, recommendations, repeat business from those customers? If I'm not, you're missing out on that low-hanging fruit that's sitting right there in front of you, which is obviously sort of madness when you think about it. Okay, cool. I won't go into detail about account management stuff, account penetration. You can touch on that a little bit later on. I'll share all these slides with you, as I said, afterwards. But if you're interested in understanding that, just get involved in the Operation Goldmine, or certainly get access to our RevOps playbook. And again, we'll share this with you all afterwards. You can see this yourself. But the RevOps playbook is pretty simple. It's how do I attract more customers in the sales funnel strategy that we talked about? How do I engage with those customers properly in the boardroom through consultative selling, Pinnacle program? And then how do I delight them? And if I delight them enough, then on the back of that, I'm going to get lots of repeat business recommendations and referrals and so on and so forth. So that delighting of your existing customers drives more business. A couple of the companies I'm working with at the moment, I've literally, their entire sales process now is about delighting their candidates and using their candidates purely as their main channel for referrals and recommendations. And it is really, really working. They're delivering such a delightful delivery process that the candidates are happy to share with them leads and opportunities as much as anything else. Okay, all these playbooks here they're free to access, but there's no cost for a charge or that's not for anything. So help yourself to this stuff, use this stuff. It's all here for you. It's already thought about for you. Just think about your strategy that sits behind that. And within that is a really nice audit. So you can actually see what are you currently doing as a business from a RevOps point of view, and how's that translate into maybe what you should be doing next. It will show you what you need to be doing next as well. So again, if any of you want a copy of the audit, just give us a yes and we'll ping that across to you. So you've got that, and that will really show you how to really drive your RevOps strategy as much as anything else. Again, I won't go through the RevOps process now. You'll see all this later on. But again, similar principles to the BD strategy, driven by data, underpinned by AI and technology, all about continuously engaging with your customers. Everything that you do is about driving sales in some format. And that's why it's part of the omni-channel, the multi-channel sales strategy as much as anything else. Attract, engage, and then delight your customers. So I've talked about lots of stuff today, and as always, I've just planted a few seeds. I hope it's been useful. It's got you thinking about a few different ideas. There's a lot of in-depth stuff behind all of this and each of the different channels, which I'm very happy to share with you. But where do you go next? Where do you start next? Think about your ICP. What do you really know about them, and how's that drive your RevOps playbook? So the people that you're targeting, the customers you want to be working with, what do we know about them? Where are they hanging out? What are they looking for? What are their pains, their challenges? What will help them want to hang out with you and invite them into their boardroom, basically. Okay, so we have a really cool document called Personas and Pyramids. It comes from our social scaling program, which is our brand program. If any of you want to copy that, let me know. We'll send that across to you. Complete that, map it out, fill the document out. It allows you to understand exactly who your ICP is. That document, you save it, and then when you're building AI agents, any AI, the AI agents we're going to talk about from a sales or marketing point of view, you upload your Personas and Pyramids document into that agent. So it's understanding and thinking about your ICP in the way that you want it to. That's how you teach and train your agents to do what they need to do. And it will map all this out for you in nice simplistic format. Okay. Again, we can help you with that. We can use AI to do that. This is one of our AI agents we built on the social scaling course with the members. This is all about content planning. So those of you trying to figure out what to write on social media on a Sunday night for Monday morning, or when you're waking up on a Tuesday thinking, how do I be inspirational in a purple cow? You can use our content planning tool if you want. And you literally type in the name of your ideal customer profile and the location. So let's say, for example, you're targeting fintech businesses in London. And then what this agent will do is will map out for you their ICP, so give you all the information about their ICP, and it will also then build out your social media plan and actually the content for the next 7 days. So it'll create for you a whole social media plan and actual LinkedIn posts that you can copy and paste and stick onto LinkedIn for the next 7 days. So I say to everyone on the social scaling course, on a Sunday night, grab 20 minutes, run the content planner, pump it through your ICP, get all your content scheduled for the following week, and now you've done 14 posts for the following week, all ready to go. Good quality content as well. Again, if any of you want a copy of that agent, we'll ping it across to you, and you can play with that as well and utilize that at the same sort of time. The agents we're sending you, by the way, you haven't got to be a member of TRN to access them. They're all free to access. You can just utilize them with your ChatGTP account. So if you get this social scaling one, if you click on it and run it and pump in your market and your geographical location, it will see it will pop up with a nice document, which is your ICP document, all nicely mapped out for you. And then it will start giving you all the actual content that you can have copy and paste and use for your LinkedIn post next week. Super slick, super quick, which means you can spend more time doing the stuff we want to do, which is those 15 to 20 client meetings that we want to be pushing forward for in the first place. Again, same principle, attract, engage, delight. It's the RevOps strategy in action. And again, we're using AI to help us drive that forward as much as anything else. Okay, cool. And then the last piece to close off on then, when you think about that customer journey and you think about this attract, engage, delight, a really great process when you're building out your sales process and what you're doing is to map out the customer journey. There's an example from one of the members that we've been working with. I've just taken a snippet of it, where they've mapped out every single interaction they have with their customers and then through the sales process. And what does bloody brilliant look like? How are we making sure we're adding value at each of these different moments of truth or touch points in that sales journey? And how are they all driving the call to action that we want, which is to get us in front of the customer, to get a meeting with the customer. So again, I'm happy to share with you some examples of these workflows to have a look at. But ultimately, once you've mapped out the workflow, if it's proper workflow stuff where it's actually driving meetings with the customers, we can then layer in a whole load of AI on top of that as well to then have this engine running in the background. A lot of the stuff you're seeing on the screen here can now be done automatically using AI in the background, which is what we've been teaching people on the Traction program how to do it. So suddenly now your singular recruiter is now behaving and acting like a 20-person sales team because it's all happening. Okay, good stuff. Right, yes, Joe, all this stuff is free, by the way, so you don't have to be a member to access it, so don't worry. Okay, cool, we'll ping it all across to you. So what are we doing from here? Well, what we're doing at the moment, we're working with a lot of the members to build out this ultimate RevOps customer journey for your business. And that's what I want you to take away from today is think about your positioning, think about what you're famous for, think about how you're getting in front of your customers, think about what that customer journey looks like, think about how we're going to use AI to automate it. Bring all that together. That is the strategy that sits behind your Superagency BD process. If you want help with that, reach out. We'll help you with that. It's not a problem at all, but just understand that, please. So from here, we'll send you through the slides. We'll send you through a copy of the recording and everything else that you've got. If you want to book in one-to-one with me, feel free to do so. It's not a problem. I will work with you and help you with that. Remember to get access to all these courses, the social scaling program, Velocity, Pinnacle, Traction. They're there to access, they're there to utilize. Loads and loads of stuff in here. It's all done for you. You just need to basically put the stuff into place.
And that's a wrap for this episode of the TRN podcast. Thank you for listening. And make sure you grab the free episode toolkit. All the links are in the description. And click follow in your podcast app so you can get notified of our next episode. If you want to get more out of your business and your people, then please unlock 30 days from our platform, TRN World, for free. And help yourself to all our training content, our guides, our templates, and peer insights. You can get started at trnworld.com/trial. And finally, if you found this episode of the TRM podcast of use,